Hey, James here, and I want to show you how to get employee buy-in when you're coaching someone, all right? This is super important. And I was working with a group the other day, and I'm going to share some of the things I learned there. Here's the thing. Here's the problem. When it comes to coaching your employees, a lot of people struggle when the employee is not making progress, and it doesn't seem really like they're taking it seriously. And when that happens, it's usually because the employee themselves haven't bought into the fact that they need to change, right? And that's really at the epicenter of everything. So let me just walk you through a couple things here. And actually, before I even get to that, first, just some definitions, because I find this gets confusing at times. When we're talking about development, right? When we're developing an employee, coaching is one aspect of that, but there's going to be multiple things that you're doing to develop your staff, right? So sometimes that's just teaching, right? And in teaching, it's a transfer of knowledge. Think of this as classes, courses, webinars, processes. It might be you there to say, hey, no, do this. Hey, do this differently. Or I heard your sales call. How about you do this next time? That's going to be part of what we do as leaders, right? Then there's mentoring. Mentoring's a little bit different. Mentoring is about providing guidance based on a similar journey. In other words, you've gone ahead of them, and now you can share your experience. And it's kind of like, I've been there, I've done that. Usually there's an age factor here, or at very least a success factor, right? Nobody wants to be mentored by somebody who is either behind them on the road or has not been successful in this area. So that's why mentoring is a little bit different. But coaching is what I'm talking about here today. And coaching is different. It's not that teaching or in a sense that mentoring where you're passing on wisdom. Coaching asks the employee to self-identify and self-direct. All right. Also, coaching makes the unconscious conscious. Think about this. All of us are walking around with certain blind spots, and what coaching does is it's an outside set of eyes to get us to see something. Coaching helps an employee gain insight, discovers blind spots, and a big thing coaching does, it shifts beliefs. And shifting beliefs is really at the core of deeper change. All right. So when we think about coaching, it's not necessarily like, hey, here's how to get rapport on the start of a sales call, right? A lot of that's going to be training. Now, somebody having a lack of confidence, and that's affecting them building rapport on the sales call, now we're venturing into the realm of coaching, right? It's a little bit deeper. It's stuff that's deeper down. Yet when you can help them change it, it's amazing the things that they can do, because coaching is so transformational. Okay, so I just wanted to first say those things. But now as we dive in here, when it comes to getting buy-in, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that. Now, in this short training, I'm just going to briefly talk about two of these, okay? I'm going to talk about about the cause and effect, and I'm going to also talk about involvement, right? C. Let's actually go there first. So one of the things when we are coaching someone, autonomy is really important. Like, it's one thing to come to an employee and say, hey, you need to change this. I'm going to coach you on this. Though that might be valid, but you probably don't like that approach coming your way, right? And so one of the things that you can do if you've not been coaching your staff is that you can think of a list of things that they need to get better at that's going to make them more effective. And you can ask them, in a sense, for their list. It might look like, hey, Joey, as we heading to the new year, I'm curious about what you think are the most important things for you to grow in personally to help you do better in your role. What do you think those are, right? And so Joey's going to come up with his list. And then really what you're looking for is something that's on both of your lists, because you can start there. Because then it's their idea, right? And so you're going to go with that. That makes a huge difference on a psychological level for somebody, because now it's like you're the boss helping them grow in something that they want to grow in. Okay, so involvement is super easy or super important, and that's an easy way to do it right there. Of course, there's other techniques, but that's just one simple way for you. Find their list, look at your list, find something that's in the middle, and then go with it, right? But sometimes we don't have this luxury, right? Sometimes there's an issue that we see that maybe they don't see. Maybe it is something like confidence. Maybe it is something with their personality that's causing problems with the team, right? And things not to gel. And sometimes these are more sensitive issues. So what do we do then? Well, we want to do something called finding the gap. Again, like I said, a lot of the reason why somebody doesn't jump into coaching, like they're not really open to your coaching, is because they don't see the need. In other words, they don't see that their current behavior is a problem. And that's what we want to do. We want to help someone understand that this is a problem. Now, a lot of times we don't like to think in that way. You know, somebody is, let's just stick with confidence. Somebody's not confident and it's affecting how they are on calls, either sales calls or calls with clients, calls with customers, and they're not that confident, right? Well, they're still doing okay. They're putting up numbers, and so is it really a problem? Well, it's something that they should grow in, but you kind of have to get out of that mindset and get into the mindset of this is a problem. So I want you to think about it in this for a moment. What is the problem? If somebody is not confident on sales calls, why is that a problem? Now you might think, well, because then they're not going to do as good a job, in terms of making sales. Yes, you're right. So that's a revenue. So that means that person is probably going to make less revenue for the company than they could. Is that a problem? Yes or no? That's a problem, right? Well, let's talk about them for a moment. Let's talk about them in terms of how do they feel about their job? When they come and every day they have to get on the phone and they're not that confident because of whatever's going on right under here, and they're not that confident, how does that person feel about their job? How do they feel on Sunday night when they are ready to come into work? Are they loving work? Are they diving into work? Or are they dreading it a little bit? Well, if they're dreading work or feeling like insecure or not confident, is that a problem? Yes, it is a problem, right? We don't want our employees to feel like that. So that's a problem. And so what we want to do is we want to help somebody, we want to find the gap in initially, a lot of people think, okay, yeah, I can get better. I could get better at this. But what we want to do is we want to widen the gap, right? We're going to find the gap and we're going to widen the gap. Now, how do we do that? We're going to shine a light on the problem. So let's go to the sales call, for example. We might ask them, because coaching is going to be a lot of questions, but we might ask them, hey, when you think about your calls that you're making, what's one area that you feel like you'd really like to get better at? And they might say, well, I'm having a problem with the transition, from finding out what their challenges is and going to the pitch. And you're like, oh, okay, well, why do you think that is? And they might talk about a lot of skill. And, but as you probe deeper, that lack of confidence is going to come up. And they might say, well, sometimes I don't know if I'm saying the right thing. I don't know if I'm doing. Okay. And so as you begin to ask questions and highlight this lack of confidence, like as they begin to talk more about that, then you can say, do you think that this is a problem, your lack of confidence in this area? And they're going to probably say, well, yeah. I mean, how does it feel for you to keep coming on these calls and not feeling confident? Oh, well, it doesn't feel that great. Does this make you love your job? Or just kind of to get through it? Well, it's just kind of to get through it. Is that what you want your job to be in your life? Do you want to feel this every day? No, of course I don't. Do you think this impacts your ability to have a higher close rate? Well, yeah, because my numbers are usually, middle of the pack or a bit lower. Do you think if you were more confident that you would close more? Yeah, I do think that. Do you think that would be better for the company? Yeah, absolutely. If you didn't change this and you just stayed on this trajectory, where are you going to be in 6 months? Now, I'm obviously just firing through these questions for the sake of getting through them, but I wouldn't do that in the actual live moment. But the idea there is we're going to use questions to help them understand this is a problem. And if you don't change, this is where you'll be in the future, right? And it's not a good place. Another way that you can help people find the gap after those questions is you get people to self-assess. Hey, in this area, scale of 1 to 10, where do you think that you are? 10 being you are so confident, so certain, one being, you're a shell of a person, right? So they're probably going to say, oh, I don't know, like, 6.5-ish. That's usually a number people will say. They don't want to say too low because they'll look bad. 6.5-ish, 7. Okay. So what do you think is the difference between a 7 and a 9? And we're going to get them to think about that for a moment, because they're going to start describing what a 9 would be. We don't have to go all the way to 10. What a 9 would be. And then they're going to realize that they're not there. And so what we're doing is we're widening that gap, because in that gap, as we widen that, it kicks off these psychological processes to want to close them, especially when we've attached natural consequences to it. Not your consequences, like you're going to fire them, but consequences in that if I don't get this changed, this is going to be my life 6 months from now. And who wants that? Right? And so we're lighting a fire underneath them by helping them find the gap. And that way we don't have to be heavy-handed, like, well, if you don't change, if you don't get better at this, then blah, blah, blah. We're going to help them discover that, because then they're going to buy in to the change. Okay? So anyways, those are 2 quick ways that you can get people to buy in by getting them to understand cause and effect and widen the gap. Also, I talked a little bit about involvement, getting their involvement. Listen, coaching is one of the most difficult skills at times to learn, but yet it's one of the most important skills that we need to have as an effective boss. And if you want more help in learning how to be a better coach, to get more out of your employees and just to help them grow so that they feel awesome about working for you, then definitely check out our next workshop called Coaching for Performance. I'll leave a button at least below this video, and you can find out more information. Would love to see you there. All right. Hope that helps, and talk to you soon. Bye.